Hi, my name's Jake Sullivan, and my student ID is 01752941. I have not collaborated with any other live person in making this video. Today we're going to be talking about two variables, the first of which being gender, which is a categorical variable. That means that we can put each individual into a specific category, male or female. The second variable that we'll be talking about is age. That's a quantitative variable because it contains measured numerical values with measurement units. So from there we can talk about the three measures of central tendency. Those three measures are mean, median, and mode. So first we're going to find the mean, median, and mode of our age data. So to do that, we're going to go to Stat, Summary Stats, Columns, and we're going to click, and under Select Columns, we're going to click Age, and then down here, we're going to select our three measurements of central tendency. Under Statistics, that would be our mean, and then our median, and our mode. Our mean is the same thing as our average, which is the sum of all of our values put together divided by the number of those values. Our median is the middle most value, with the same number of values above as there are below that median number. And our mode is the most reoccurring number that is in our data. So now that we have those two options selected, we're going to hit compute and find these values. So as you can see, our mean is approximately 28.4 years old, our median is approximately 24 years old, and our mode is 20. What we're going to find eventually is that the median is the best number to describe our distribution here, because the median is a more suitable number to look at when you find that your distribution is skewed and has outliers, and we're going to find out shortly that that's the case here. So now that we have done that, we're going to come back here and we're going to make a pie graph and a bar graph of the variable gender, and we're going to talk about which one is easier to understand. So we'll exit out of our central measurements of central tendency here, and we'll go up here to graph. Now we want a bar plot first, and we're going to take it with data, not from with summary, because we want to use all of our data that we have here. And we're going to click gender under select column, and then you can come down here and hit compute, and you'll see here that we have a nice bar graph that clearly shows that there is a higher number of female students than there are of male students. It's very easy to tell just by the way that our bar is so much higher. And if you scroll over, you can see the values that each of these bars represent. So now that we have that, we're going to go back up to our graph up here, and we're going to click on pie chart with data, and we're going to hit gender first, and then we're going to click compute, and we have our pie chart. This is also very clearly shows that there are many more female students than there are male students. And we even have a key over here that tells us just that number that this portion represents. Now, in most cases, you'll find that the bar graph will be much easier to read than a pie graph, and that is mostly because it's so much easier to see when one bar is higher than another, and you can tell the frequency of the category. And although it seems easy right now in this instance, sometimes if you have more than 3 or 4 categories, it gets a little bit more difficult to figure out just how much larger each portion is than the one next to it or across from it. So now that we've looked at those two graphs for gender, we're going to come back to our instructions here, and we're going to create a 5-number summary of the variable age in StatCrunch. Our 5-number summary is going to contain our median, which is our middle number, remember, our upper and lower quartiles, which is the middle number between our medium and maximum and minimum numbers, and our maximum and minimum values, which are known as the extremes. So to find that in our StatCrunch, we're going to go back to our big data block, and we're going to exit out of our 2 graphs here, and we'll go to Stat, and we'll come down to Summary Stats and Columns, and we want Age again here, so we'll click Age and select Columns, and now we'll come back down to this Statistics box here, and we want to take out anything that isn't our 5-number summary. So what we want here is our median, our minimum and maximum, those are our extreme values, and our Q1 and Q3, which stand for the upper quartile and the lower quartile. So, and now that we have these, we'll hit compute, and we see that we have our values here. And we find that our median is 24, our minimum value is 3, our maximum value is 90, our upper quartile is 33, and our lower quartile is 21. Now, this number 3 here makes me believe that there's probably an error in the input of some of this data. And that won't affect our median, but it will, assuming that does stand for someone that is supposed to be there, and that value is below our median. That shouldn't affect our median, but it will affect our mean or average because it'll bring it down. So we're gonna exit out of this, and we're gonna come to our instructions and just see what we have to do again. And that's, we want to create a dot plot, box plot, and stem and leaf plot of the variable age on StatCrunch. And once we have those all up, we'll explain which graph makes the shows our variable age the best. So we're gonna come back to our big data block, and we'll go to graph, and we're gonna start at stem and leaf plot, and we're gonna hit age, and we can hit compute. Now you're gonna notice that this stem and leaf plot here looks an awful lot like our histogram just placed on its side, and it's basically the same thing. Now you also might notice that we have broken up each tens of numbers into 2 different categories, the lower being from with the last digit 4 to 0, and the upper being with the last digit being from 5 to 9. And that's just to make it easier on us viewing wise, so that we don't have super extremely long lines. And we do find that in our 20s, our lower 20s, we see that our line is very, very long. And this may have partially to do with the fact that our mode, which if you remember was 20, will be in this section. So now that we find that, we'll just set this aside, and we're gonna, oh sorry, covered that up. And now we're gonna go back to our box plot, I believe is next. Yep, we'll go to our box plot, and we want to go to graph, and box plot's right here. And we're going to click age, and we'll hit compute. Now what a box plot is a display of is our 5-number summary, which is again our median right here, this line, our extremes, our maximum at this whisker here, and our minimum at this whisker here, and our upper and lower quartiles. This box here represents the middle 50% of our values. So that's the greatest concentration of our values will be right in this area here. It seems like between our upper quartile of 33 and our lower quartile of 21. So now we're gonna do our last display here, which is our dot plot. And we're gonna click age and compute one more time, and we're gonna see a nice display of our dot plot. And as I was saying earlier, we have a unimodal this distribution here, which seems to be skewed to the right, and we see a couple of outliers here, over here at 3 and over here in the 90s and 80s. Now, I believe that the best looking display of this data here was our dot plot, as we can easily see just where our mode is and how the trend goes from there, and we can also see where these outliers are that maybe we will take into consideration of where those came from, and if possibly this is an error. So that's what we have for our assignment today, and I hope that I was able to help you understand a little bit about this assignment. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.